Alaa, thank you so much for talking to us today. From your perspective as a doctor and with your background, what do you see as are the current challenges in conflict resolution and peace building?
Well, I mean, I think the challenges and the opportunities are really one and the same. I think for a very long time, we've anchored more around security than we have around peace building. And which means that we really look at, okay, how can we stop the bullets today? What does that look like? Who needs to be at the table? And it often means that we cater more to the causes of conflict than we do to the actual underlying needs. So I would say first and foremost, just as a physician thinking about, okay, how do we recenter prevention rather than kind of treatment, so that we're investing in healthcare and education and equity and access, opportunity, food security, before they become opportunities for conflict. And then if conflict has erupted, how do we ensure that we have everybody representative around the table? Not just those who are instigating conflict and who benefit from it, but really those who are the most eager to end the conflict. So how do we get the most representative group?
And how do you see the future on this pathway? Are we on the right track?
2025, I mean, the past few years has been tough for, and there's so many data points you can bring about how much better off we are now than we were 30 years ago. And a lot of those are true. But we're not better off than we were 5 years ago, right? And unfortunately, no matter how much better off we feel at the kind of 30,000-foot view in those communities where there's conflict every day, they don't really care what the world looked like 5 years ago. They care about what they're experiencing today. So do I think we're on the right path? I think we continue to be challenged by a need to prescribe solutions rather than co-build them with community. I think we continue to compromise with the lowest common denominator in conflict rather than really demand representation, equity. You know, I compare it sometimes to if a patient comes in with an infection. A really good surgeon will take, they'll observe the patient walking in, a really good physician will observe the patient walking in, they'll take a really good history, they'll see what kind of infection it is, but they'll never just put a Band-Aid on and send that patient home, because who knows, in 2 weeks they might come back and they'll need an amputation, right? And sometimes I worry that we deal with peace building in a Band-Aid solution kind of way, and it's just not sustainable. So do I think we're on the right path? Not necessarily. Do I think we have all the tools and knowledge and we have, I think, the community leadership to drive us there? Yes. I think that just needs to converge with some of the more formal platforms.
And from your experience and what you see, who are the potential actors who are very good actually thoroughly looking after the patient, as you say, and look under the causes of the injury?
90% of peace processes fail within 5 years. Which clearly means we are not doing them in the most effective and sustainable way. When you include women at the agenda setting phase, so not in a consultative way, but in a co-architecture, those same peace processes are 35 times more likely to last 15 years. So when you think about the impact that has on education, on healthcare, the economic dividends, it's incredible. So my answer will always be first and foremost women. And I think not simply women, but an inclusive representation of the community that this peace process is meant to serve. So women, men, people in different fields, sector, socioeconomic status, they need to be there, or else whoever is sitting at the table will negotiate only for themselves, and that will never be sustainable. And the second group I would say is increasingly, I think we need a lot more faith leaders to be more formally engaged. For a very long time, the kind of peace building and development space has ceded a lot of space and power to faith, almost, and not necessarily power, because faith leaders often have it in the community already, but hasn't necessarily engaged them. And that lack of engagement doesn't negate their community authority or their influence. If anything, it makes them more likely to engage in other ways. And so I think really thinking about how we engage with faith leadership is going to be critically important. And the third group I would say that I think is increasingly important is private sector. For a very long time, we've talked about security and peace building very much from a charity and aid lens. And I think increasingly, we need to appreciate that there has to be some component of local private sector, of entrepreneurism, of really sustainable investment in community and in the people in those communities.
And if you were to choose your most important next action which you would like to see happening, what would that be?
I think peace building and peace building institutions are as strong as the foundations and the laws in which we're really anchored on. And unfortunately, I think in the past couple of years, we've really seen an abdication of our responsibility. International humanitarian law being one of them, but recognizing that every child around the world, every person around the world is deserving of dignity, of safety, of access, of food. And so if there is any one thing I could do is really reorient ourselves around what are our core values, what are our commitments and our accountabilities. Because without them, we can't expect anybody else to uphold them or be in service of them if we're not ourselves.